Great, so welcome back to 10.2 or grade 8. So we're now starting a new chapter or a new section on intersecting lines and looking at how the intersection or the arrangement of lines can create different angles and how you can predict the measurement of these angles and the lines based on some of the rules. So let's start off with just regular angles. So two intersecting lines at one point. And so we're going to create a variety of these lines. So let's just copy down these lines that we see here. So pause the video if you need to copy these lines. So this first one that we see here, this angle is the measurement right here. And we'll call this A. Anyway, this angle is called an acute angle because it's less than 90 degrees. So it's less than 90 degrees. This angle here creates a 90-degree angle, and we call this a right angle. Or we say that these two lines are perpendicular to each other. This angle here is greater than 90 degrees, and so we call this an obtuse angle. But it's still less than 90 degrees. It's still less than 180 degrees. So we have angle, let's call this theta. It's a Greek letter. So we have theta is greater than, it looks like a little O with a line through it. So angle theta is greater than 90 degrees, but less than 180 degrees. Then I have this angle, which is a really weird one, and we call this the straight line angle or the straight angle, which is basically just a straight line. And so that means it really is the intersection of 2 points at the same, like on the same line, so that it looks like one line. So I could have two lines kind of intersecting at this one point, and a straight angle makes an angle of 180 degrees. And the last one is this angle that makes an angle of greater than 180 degrees. And so we call this a reflex angle. So any reflex angle is where the angle is greater than 180 degrees. Now we have two intersecting lines here, and it creates what we see here as a 90-degree angle. And what we could do is, if we find that we have another line within there, we can predict then the measurement of these angles. So because we know that the total angle of, let's say, A and B, so we have angle A and angle B, we can predict that the sum of angle A plus the sum of angle B equals 90 degrees, because we know that the total is that right angle. We call this the complementary angle rule. So let me just type this in or write this in. Complementary what's going on here? Angle rule. And so the complementary angle rule means that two angles add up to 90 degrees. So for example, if angle A equals 70 degrees, now I could predict that angle B, so if angle A is 70 degrees, then angle B is 20 degrees. And the reason why we can predict that is because of the complementary angle rule, which we then abbreviate CAR. So why is it 20 degrees? Well, because of CAR. Now let's just move over, and right over here, we now have a straight line. So if we add an extra line over here, looks like that. Let's try to get it in there. There. And now I have angle C and angle D. Now, as we see, this whole angle here makes a straight line. So this one line is the combination of both of these angles. So we can predict that angle C plus angle D now adds up to 180 degrees because it's a straight line. We call this theorem, or this rule, the straight angle rule, or the supplementary angle rule, or conveniently in English, straight angle rule also works because they both start with the letter S. And so this is abbreviated SAR or SAR. So in this example, if angle C equaled 50 degrees, then I can predict that angle D is 180 minus 50, which is 130 degrees, and the reason being SAR, or supplementary angle rule. So just as a review, complementary angle rule means that two angles add up to 90 degrees. So let's just highlight that here. Two angles add up to 90 degrees, where in supplementary angle rule, SAR, that means two angles add up to 180 degrees. So we have to take a look to see whether or not our complete angle makes a letter L, or whether or not it's a straight line. And then based on that, we can determine if we need to use complementary angle rule or supplementary angle rule. So we'll continue on with this lesson with a whole bunch of other rules, but these are the first two to know. So hopefully you understood this lesson.